that performance on the weekend and the last few weeks have been disappointing. There's no two ways around that.
Brumbies, top of the table. Look, this is like a Formula One race where, they haven't gone into the pits yet.
I was sitting up in the ABC Sport box with Laurie Fisher, and we both sort of thought, have we just seen what we think we've seen? I had Queensland pegged for top 2, and you laughed at me, Devlin. You laughed long and hard. You put it up on social media, and you laughed at me for a week after that.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Let's cross the ditch then. Trans-Tasman talk as far as Super Rugby Round 14 goes. And our great old mate, Brett McKay, who works for RugbyPass, the 8-9 podcast combo, where his offsider, well, I think is the Aleph Kelter of rugby podcasts, is Big Hazza. Would that be fair?
Oh, it could be. Could be.
Let's start with that, mate. Good God. I was talking to Tony about that. Have you seen anything like that on a rugby? I mean, that's kind of club rugby back in the 70s, wasn't it? That kind of stomp? Yeah,
that didn't look great, did it? We saw it happen live. It was really late in the game, and I was sitting up in the ABC Sport box with Laurie Fisher, and we both sort of thought, have we just seen what we think we've seen?
Yeah.
And yeah, that didn't look great at all. I suspect that she might have a bit of a lengthy stay out of the game for a while.
Look, and I don't know how to say this correctly or not, but I just don't expect the women to behave like that. You don't see it in the.
Yeah.
I expect to see a goon guy just lose his nut, because that's kind of normal for us as a species, but not for women. Even in rugby league, you just don't see it that often in the combat sports, do you?
No, you don't, and I do know what you mean. I get your sentiment, but I've sort of been waiting with this rise of women's sport and women's contact sport as well. And you can throw in, league, you can throw in AFL as well.
Mm-hmm.
The moment that they started edging closer towards professionalism and not having to juggle 2 and 3 jobs and all that sort of thing. The moment they were able to start, and that they are able to start training more and getting stronger and fitter and all that, it's going to add these elements to it. And there is going to be a time coming in one of the codes where there's a full-blown melee. And I think we've actually got to ready ourselves for that,
right.
and how we react to that, because that won't. It's something that we, for exactly the reasons you've just said, it's something that we won't.
I don't want to see that.
Really want to see.
I'll tell you what, Brett, I mean, this is how weird I am about it. I can't watch women UFC. And I have total respect for the athletes and everything. I just don't like seeing women punching each other in the face and getting all bloody. I just don't like it. I mean, maybe I'm from a different generation or something.
No, I get that. I absolutely get that.
Because I know a lot of young people sneer at me for this and go, get over yourself. And I don't like it. I just don't like it.
Yeah, no. I'll absolutely defend their right to do it and defend that to the death. But no, I don't have to watch it.
Brumbies, top of the table. Tony said it was great. He said, look, this is like a Formula One race where, they haven't gone into the pits yet. Are they going to finish 1, 2 or 3? I'm going to take one off the table because I believe the Chiefs are going to finish number 1, right? So are they going to finish 2 or 3, the Brumbies?
I think that win on the weekend actually guarantees it. I'll stand corrected. Edit that out in a week and a half when that's no longer valid. I think because there's now a gap. There's nearly 10 points between the Crusaders and the Reds, third and fourth.
Yep.
So I think the top 3 is pretty well locked in, which means it's going to come down to round 16, isn't it? Brumbies v Crusaders in Canberra. That's going to decide probably second and third. And that's conversations that we've been having here in Canberra about that last round game for, I will say, 6 or 7 weeks now.
Wow.
It's been a long time coming.
It's looming,
It's been the one that they've been looking at as being likely to decide whether they finish top 2 or not.
Your New South Wales, mate, your Waratahs. I'm now calling them the Broncos. Because this is a team that is equally as disappointing. Lost, shipping 100 points here in New Zealand to the Canes and Moana, then beating the Chiefs. And, I felt I got the egg on my face. I was part of their social media memes and things because I'd said their season was going to end. And so since then, they've lost 4 in a row. And Devlin's back. But this is a team that is just thoroughly disappointing, surely.
Yeah, they have been. I think the rate of improvement we expected would have been better than this, and certainly the rate of improvement would have increased as the season went on, not not decline as it has done over the last month or so. And that would be Dan McKellar's disappointment too, I'm sure. There were wins earlier in the year where he was really proud of the way they ground out a result or the way they held on for a win. There was a couple of those early wins at home. They probably shouldn't have held on to win those, and they did. They found ways of getting it done. Yeah.
Yep.
But that performance on the weekend and the last few weeks have been disappointing. There's no two ways around that. But what I will say, and I've just said this on the latest 8-9 pod, is that Dan McKellar has actually done this before. When he first took over the Brumbies, they ran third or fourth, I think, the year previous. He took over and they ran 10th, and he then made the changes that he needed to make. And the following year, they played finals again and haven't missed it since. So he's got that ability to come in, make the changes he needed. There's already been a lot of changes, I'll hear you say, in the background this year for the Waratahs. But there's obviously a few other things that needs tweaking. And I thought it was interesting that Jake Gordon, who's been at New South Wales for a long time now, talks about systemic failings. And you think about what's gone on at the Waratahs in the last few years, I wouldn't have thought there'd be too many staff on or off field at the Waratahs that have been there for much longer than Jake Gordon has. So it's intriguing to know who might be in the target lines of those sorts of comments.
Your Reds. So, okay, the Force are doing what I expected the Force to do. They've lost their last 4. No disrespect to them. The Reds, how do we read them coming into this finals period? They get the Hurricanes, and then they finish with the Drua. I'd expect them to win that home game. But that Hurricanes game, it's a 50 bet at the moment. And the way the Canes are playing, and they certainly were so impressive going to Canberra and winning. Where do you put the Reds at the moment? Are they actually capable of coming to New Zealand and winning a game here in the final series?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, it's not much of an endorsement. I'll grant you. They're a funny side that, like, let's acknowledge that they've got an injury list as long as your arm at the moment, and it's the quality of the names on the injury list, I think, is the factor there. But all year they've been, I think, a bit below their best. I don't think we've seen the best out of Queensland yet, and I actually now wonder whether we will this year because of that injury list. But the start of the year, I'm sure we had conversations, coming into the first few weeks of Super Rugby where I talked. Well, I did. I had Queensland pegged for top 2, and you laughed at me, Devlin. You laughed long and hard. You put it up on social media, and you laughed at me for a week after that. You did. But I genuinely thought that they would be the best Australian side by actually a little bit of a margin, and they just haven't been. And even on Saturday night, they showed to be fairly limited in attack, I think. The Brumbies look to play wide whenever they can, and they've been a team that has played wide all year. The Reds, I think I worked out or read this week that only the Blues have played narrower than Queensland have in 2025.
Whoever's sitting there at home at night working that stat out, who's the narrowest team? I applaud you. Whoever you are, I applaud you. You need to get onto the Wisdom Almanacs next, mate. Okay.
Absolutely. But you can actually see that play out on Saturday night. They're a team that they certainly can attack down the fringes, but they look to try and go through teams first and foremost. And against really good defensive teams, and the Brumbies were on Saturday night, the Hurricanes definitely are. That's actually pretty hard to do. So that's why I say maybe, because on their day they have been capable. They have beaten the Chiefs in Hamilton. They have beaten the Crusaders in Christchurch. So on their day they're capable of it. Whether their day is next weekend, that's the debate at the moment.
Okay, Brett, let's wrap it up with this then. For weeks and weeks, it was about a good 7 or 8 weeks, there were 4 Aussie teams in that top 6. There's now 2. Is this kind of what most of us would have expected it to be?
Yeah.
6 and 7, whether it's the Blues or Moana, it's still, I'd say, it's still a New Zealand-based team. But 2 Aussie teams in there. So is that kind of where you thought it would all end up landing?
Yeah, probably. It would have been nice if a third one could scrape in, and that's why it was really encouraging to have the 4 teams in the top 6 for as long as happen because it's not an insignificant feat. So
no, look, and actually, look, it really revved the whole competition along. It did.
Definitely did.
Yeah,
definitely did. But I think you're right. I think the cream has risen. It's probably taken a little bit longer for the likes of the Hurricanes to come through. And the Blues have been sort of surprisingly disappointing all year, if I could word it that
that's
way.
fair,
I think
mate.
we
It's entirely
expected
fair.
them to, I think we expected them to run top 2 or 3 all year, and they just haven't. Whether that's a case of them being found out or limitations, I'm not 100% sure.
All
but
part of it, mate.
yeah, all part of it. I think we're about right. I'd love Moana to get through. They've been so good
this year's
It would
Drua,
be
aren't
such
they?
deserving.
So that's what
it's a great way of putting it. Yeah, it's a great way of putting it. And the Drua have probably been a little bit disappointing. So it's been really important that we have had that, feel good factor, if I can say it, around Moana.
Agree.
I love that they've found a home base on the North Shore there in Auckland. That
Mexico,
was a
we call
fantastic
it,
crowd
mate,
on Saturday.
Mexico. You know what the North Shore is? Mexico, mate.
Yeah, I get that. It's the same way we refer to Victoria. It's just like it's great that they found a home base. There's obviously a very healthy Pacifica population on the North Shore as well, and they played for and with their fans on Saturday night,
Great
and
way
that's
of putting
what
it.
got them home.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
This is the DSPN.